Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for the solo variant of Great Western Trail 2nd Edition. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this variant specifically came with 2nd Edition, or at least it came in the box, because the 1st Edition I do not remember ever seeing a solo variant. And I gotta say, it is pretty damn solid. Like, I wasn't sure how this was gonna work, because I'm like, well, I mean, like, there's a lot of moving parts in Great Western Trail. This is not, like, the lightest of games. And, of course, there's heavier games than Great Western Trail that do have solo variants that work out extremely well. But there was just a lot of moving parts. You know, the fact that you have to manage the all your little discs of upgrading based off going on to, you know, delivering to different cities, placing buildings, you know, hiring the different workers, buying cows. There's just a lot that's going on that could have easily made this solo variant extremely cumbersome to try and play. And it is very, very smooth. Like, oh my god, it's so easy to play. I'm really astounded at how they were able to make it like such a smooth transition with everything. And Sam, the AI, it's as if it is another player, almost. Most solo variants, I'm really just going to have to come to terms with it, because very, very few of them truly replicate another player. But this one's pretty close, because what he does is he has a specialization in types of workers, and that's what he's focusing on. So in my random setup, it was the conductor. So he made it almost all the way, you know, by doing the conductors. But he doesn't have to pay money. Whenever he delivers cows and makes it to Kansas City, he always starts in Bloomington and then just goes up. So it's kind of a race. He's kind of a timer, which the game itself is a timer on how quickly people want to make it to Kansas City and advance the game, because if they let other players, you know, take their time, that's just giving them chances to get better cards and, you know, therefore more points. But I thought the pacing was extremely well. Like, he didn't just ramp up and then just start rushing the board immediately. The way that his cards come out will kind of dictate his speed, but in a few times, like, there's a few cards where he will just all of a sudden take 4 moves, and you have to be like, oh, okay, he's going to make it to Kansas City. That's all right. I'll still take my time. Or you might be like, no, I really want to place these specific hazards or whatever, and go before him. But yeah, so he basically will focus on a specific type of worker. He can get other workers, and if there are none, because the chances are of there being not one out, then he takes one that is his second most in this case, and if it's tied, then the cheapest, and that ended up being the builder, which allowed him to build more buildings. And then the building placement is extremely, you know, simple. Oh, he just places one in front of wherever you're at. And then if one has a hand, so like a taxing, that's the one that he picks. And then if he can't place one, then he upgrades a building based off the workers that he does have. And similar to you as a player, you're most likely not going to be able to hire every worker. And if you do, that's kind of going to be your focus. But like, he, for example, never got cowboys, and therefore was limited to the cards that he could buy, which were essentially just level 3s, because he pays up to 8 money. So if he ever has 5 total cowboys, then he can get a level 4 because that's just 8 money. Or if he has 4 cowboys, then he can get the level 5 because that's 6 money. It's just so clean, because you do the same thing. Like, I had 1 building out because I never bought builders, and he was able to do some building. I could have done the same thing, I just didn't find them worth it. And they get placed in positions just like almost another person would play them, because there's no real rhyme or reason to place buildings in specific areas. There's a few that want to be in, like, forest zones, and sometimes you might want to tax people before they make it to Kansas City, but that's really it. And he kind of does the same thing, but really it's just to hinder movement. and you as a player have to compensate for that by being like, okay, well, I was going to upgrade my hand size, but there's a lot of buildings out, so I'm going to, use that so I can increase my speed. Like, so he, and because the player, like his actions are just a very, very thin sheet. I mean, it's a big technical sheet, but it tells you, this is super smart, the card number, so you can look at it and be like, oh, what's number 2 do? Oh, it's right here. You can immediately find what that action does and just read it and then be like, oh, okay. Like, you don't have to go through the whole catalog of, okay, so because of this, he has to move this like this, and then now he does this action instead of this action because of all these different criteria. He doesn't do any of that. He has some criteria on very few things, but I'm very much amazed that they were able to encapsulate somewhat of another person to where it doesn't make you as the solo player just be like, oh god, okay, I have to think about how I want to play, but also retain all those weird solo rules that are shoved into a game to just try to make it appeal to solo gamers. Like, this one is one of the cleanest I've seen. Hell, even like, I mean, Anachrony is still my favorite type of solo game because it does feel like another person, but that's an extensive solo variant. This is close enough that there are a few things you might be annoyed with, because, like, in this one, yeah, you as a player have to manage money, but at the same time, like, you have the ways to gain that. You have the control over your deck. You have, if you deck build correctly, you can gain a bunch of money, and you can utilize your own buildings. Like, he doesn't use buildings. He only does actions off his cards. You get money for the bandits. You get, like, if you get points or money based off the station master tiles that you get. It's so him not having to spend money and him basically just always getting objective cards or just slowly increasing on the track, like, doesn't feel like an annoyance. In other games where it's like you have to really, like, money's so tight or food is so tight and you really have to bust your ass, and then the AI is just like, yeah, I don't have to worry about that. It can ruin the game, and it didn't here at all. In fact, whenever I was scoring, like, because he doesn't score for money, he doesn't score for Station Master tiles, he doesn't score for player board stuff, or, and that's it. Like, that's where my points caught up, because he did better than me in almost every category. Except cows, because that's what I ended up focusing on, because I knew he was ramping up, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll try and buy a whole bunch of cows, and that's the only spot that I did better than him at, by a significant amount. But what's also really cool, and actually one thing that I thought was going to be annoying was I thought he had to actually meet the objective cards, like, based off of what they are. And I was like, well, that's a little weird, because it is luck for him. He just takes the furthest one and places it in there. And I was like, well, maybe it'll all even out. He'll just happen to get stuff. Nope. Every objective card he gets, he just scores as if it was completed. So really the terrain and the bandits are just taking them from you so you don't get max money. And the terrain he does get victory points for. But yeah, I mean, even then, I think I got 16 points and he got 17, so it wasn't that big of a spread. And that's just to streamline the process, because that would have been kind of annoying, because he would have just been weird if you had to manage his objectives. Like, the best part for me about solo variants, hands down, is, do you still get to play the game like normal, or do you have to change things about, like, how you play to accommodate for another weird AI player? Like, because most of them obviously, like, try to set the example of, like, 2-player games, and whenever you have to be like, oh, I can't do these actions because it's not another player, it's an AI, it can just make a solo experience, I feel, very cumbersome, and I did not feel that at all here. I got to play Great Western Trail like normal, and then basically have Sam as kind of a score to beat and a timer of the game. And he never took anything that I really wanted. He never he never weirdly screwed me over. And that's even what it says. It says whether you're exploring the game or testing your skills, that's a perfect example to kind of set the precedent for what this solar variant is. If you're just kind of wanting to figure out the game, this is a solid way to test out Great Western Trail before you bring in other people, so you can understand kind of how the game works. Or if you're just like, oh, I want to try this strategy. Like, I just want to see what happens if you go all in on buildings and see how that works against an AI opponent. I mean, the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm like, it is so clean. Like, you don't have to be bogged down and memorize what every single card does. One, because they're basically very straightforward. He moves one, and then he, hires a worker that is his specialty. And the only weird one is just kind of like when he's placing buildings, but you can just easily look it up and be like, okay, so here's the criteria of how he's building. Okay, that's that. Like, I'm amazed. Obviously, you can go check out what I think of Great Western Trail. I've done it. It's only first edition, but there's a discussion there for that and the expansion, and then you can go check out the comparison video I did between the second edition and the first edition, between component wise. But Sam is like the perfect example of a bot in a game like this, when I was like, this is just going to be stupid. It's going to be annoying. I don't want to deal with that hassle. And no, like so many times I would be like, okay, my turn's over. All right, let's draw. Oh, okay, he's moving, and okay, he's getting cowboys. He's getting these, these cows. All right, my turn. And then, what do I want to do? And then you get to think out your entire strategy. Because no one blocks you. He doesn't go to places and block you. You're just like, oh, okay, well, I can go there and I can sell, these 2 greens for 4 money. And then I can pay money to remove a hazard. And then, all right, then I'll draw up. That's my turn. And then, what's he doing? Oh, he's moving 1 and he's taking this objective. Okay, well, let's fill that up. Like, all right, now it's back to my turn. It's just like, boom, like clockwork. The only annoyance really is actually terms of kind of like fiddliness, because it is just you, and this really has nothing to do with kind of how the variant works or anything, but it is because it's you as the only person. You're the one that has to kind of constantly be getting up to refill the 1, 2, and 3 slots in Kansas City, and then refill the things and put his stuff out, because there's not a great way. I guess you can tilt the board and have like the workers close to you, but I was doing it probably for the camera, so I felt like I was constantly getting up, and I'd be like, okay, he made it back here. Okay, now I'm gonna do a couple stuff. Oh crap! Now it's my turn. So that was the only annoyance, but that's really nothing on the game. It's just how I had it set up. But keep that in mind. That might happen where you have to constantly, you'll reach into a bag, set it up, and then a turn later reach back into the bag to set up the 1, 2, and 3 sections. I thought initially he was going to really run the score up because he never has to worry about. That is one thing that you might be frustrated with. Other human players have to worry about their deck building and the hand of cards. Now, in the second edition, I think this is new. There's multiple ways for you to get, the draw cards and then discard to modify your deck to run through your deck quicker. But there is a chance that you could just not get the hand you need and have to go to Kansas City or have to go somewhere that you didn't plan because you didn't quite get the cows you needed to go forward. It worked out for me just because I had a lot of ways to mitigate it, and I ended up getting the station tiles before he could for permanent certificates. But that is one thing that other human players have to deal with, just like you do, and Sam never does. Like, he starts in Bloomington, and every time he makes it to Kansas City, he will go up. So there was never a time. I potentially, if I didn't hire some certain workers, I could have stopped him from getting to New York, but you kind of have to plan that he's going to just get there and get 33 points. And so, granted, I got 32, so it ended up kind of, really just, coming out in the wash. But if you don't like the fact that you might have to struggle with a deck and the AI doesn't, then that is something to keep in mind. But like I said, the final score for this was 127 to 113, and I think because of his progression, his consistent progression, you as the player will get to score, for your own board. You get to score for the Station Master tiles, and you get to score for money. So I think that kind of just balances it out. Yeah, wow. I'm completely amazed. And I was playing him on normal. I probably should have mentioned that, but and it felt, I thought he was going to completely demolish me. Whenever I added it all up, I'm like, oh, that's a nice surprise. And it was still really close. It was a 14-point difference. It was literally the things I'm able to score that he wasn't, which I did focus on doing. Basically, the Station Master tiles got me 12 of those points. Man, yeah, I'm completely amazed. You can have him on hard, and like if you do hard, he has one extra worker of each type, and then he starts in Peoria instead of Bloomington. And then you can, let's see, it's possible to further adjust the difficulty. So by changing the city of Sam's first delivery to a city closer or to New York. So if you're wanting to lower difficulty, he can start in St. Louis, or if he can start in Chicago. So basically he'll constantly be adding stuff to New York, and then he'll have a lot more different specializations. But normal was extremely solid. I think normal might be the route you want to go with. Easy if you are learning the game. Normal if you know the game and you're just wanting to try out new strategies. So I think it's fantastic. This is easily one of the best solo variants I've ever played for a phenomenal game. So if it was designed, so it was based on, I don't know who Garth is. Oh, it's based, okay, Garth must have been the first edition variant by Steve Schlepphorst with the help of Will Gherkin and David Lavoie. If those guys are just random people who made a variant for first edition and they implemented that, they did a phenomenal job. So I think that's it. If you want to know my thoughts on Great Western Trail, you can go check out my discussion on that. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give the solo variant a 10 out of 10. It is for its damn near close impersonation of a human player and seamless learning and accessibility for you to just play Great Western Trail and not have to worry about any any fiddliness or stupid solo variant rules. It's just amazing. So that's it, everyone. That's my thoughts on Great Western Trail, the solo variant. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.